CK52, the Saturday morning meeting, the conclusion of Star Safety System. This is our third episode. Well, first of all, we'll talk about Smart Stop, the Smart Stop technology. So years ago, you may not have been with Toyota at the time, we had a case of unintended acceleration. Went through the court, the National Traffic Highway Safety Administration was involved in it, NASA got involved in it. And so what had happened is the claim was the throttle stuck open and the car ran away with the consumer. So you can plenty of research, you can go back and look in the past. But the very first case, what happened was there was stacking of floor mats. So put all weather mats in on top of the other mats that were already in the car, the carpeted mats. Once the accelerator was pushed past the first mat, on the way back it caught. So the accelerator pedal caught, and now the car's throttle was open and the car took off. So there were several things the consumer could have done. I mean, hammered the brakes, put the car in neutral, but that was a very, very scary situation. So was it a design problem? Was it a driver error problem? That's up to everybody to make their own decision. So Toyota put in a technology to make sure that doesn't happen again. So the computer looks at an open throttle, and if you apply the brakes, so for example, you're wearing some winter shoes, maybe some big boots or something, and you pronate. What pronate means, you walk on the outside of your feet, and you're mashing on the brake. Well, that big boot is also mashing on the throttle. So even though you're on the brake, you're still opening the throttle. That's happened before. So there's all kinds of situations that can happen. Now what happens with an open throttle and the brake is depressed, the computer goes, you don't mean to be going and stopping at the same time. And so what it does is takes the car back to idle. Once you've removed yourself off the throttle or the brake, you can start driving the car again, but it won't allow the throttle to be open and the brake to be applied at the same time. That's Smart Stop technology. So each and every time there is a situation with an automobile manufacturer, then the technology comes in and makes sure that's taken care of. But my favorite thing to talk about, let me negotiate myself back here, is vehicle stability control. And I remember when that first came out and everybody's afraid that they couldn't drive their car. Well, the crazy thing about it is this actually makes you a better driver. So we'll say VSC. So just to look at this, I've had fun with customers over the years. So what I'll draw two arcing lines. It's not really a line, it's a segment because the line goes forever, but we'll call it a line. And then I'll put a rectangle right here. Okay, on this rectangle, I put 4 circles, and that would be your car, and that would be moving into this sweeping right-hand turn. On top of that, I put another rectangle up here, and you haven't seen this yet, and then another segment right here, and I put the numbers 3 and a 5, and then a hemi, or a half a circle. And so now what we got to do is got to see what's happening. So the car is driving, I'm exiting the ramp right here, and I'm now going 85 miles an hour. I'm in a hurry, I'm going 85 miles an hour, and I've now noticed that the turn says this is 35 miles an hour. Now things could make this worse. I could be on a slick road with ice or snow, or I could be on just a road that has some rain on it, or it could be dry pavement. The question is, my car's going 85, the turn says 35, am I going to be able to make this turn? And the answer is, of course you'll make the turn immediately after hitting the guardrail. So this is exactly what happens to the car. The car is moving, and you start to try to turn, you're turning the wheel, and the car hits, and there you go. So this is where I'm trying to go. So there's a lot of things that come. So I'm trying to make the turn to right to that X right there. That's my line. The car pushes or understeer. And the problem with that is I'm turning the wheel toward here, but the car's sliding into the guardrail. So what would the VSC do to make sure that I can make this? So let's look. First of all, there is a wheel RPM sensor. Wheel RPM. Obviously, in a right-hand turn, these inside wheels are going to be turning at a slower rate than the outside wheels. Somebody's on the outside is going to go faster than the inside. So the computer calculates the difference between these two wheels, and it can actually measure the angle of the turn. Isn't that amazing? And after the wheel RPM sensor, the throttle position sensor. So the computer now has to figure out what's causing this situation, and we know what's causing the situation. It's the driver. The driver's trying to accelerate at 85 miles an hour in a 35 mile an hour sweeping curve. So the problem is the driver. So how does it know whether the car is in peril or not? So there is a steering wheel position sensor. So where I've got the steering wheel in the car is I've got it pointed to that X right there. And so then it uses one more thing, and it's the yaw and roll rate sensor. So if the car is turning to the right, there's going to be roll to the outside. There'll be roll to the outside. And we'll talk about that. So I'm going to get that roll to the outside. It measures the amount of roll, and so it knows now that I'm actually going too fast into this curve. So it has to fix the only thing in the vehicle that's not working, which is actually the driver. So let me do this, and it uses the ETCSI, which is the Electronic Throttle Control System with Intelligence. So even though I'm still mashing on the accelerator going 85 miles an hour, this computer limits the amount of airflow to the engine, because we really don't have a gas pedal anymore. The computer controls the fuel flow. Your foot controls the amount of opening of oxygen to the engine. So it shuts it, so it will go, whoa, whoa. So you're going, I'm going 85, and all of a sudden the car's starting to slow down because it knows that you're in peril. So the car knows before you knew. So could it slow down enough that I can make this turn? Yes. If I'm really going too fast, then it can also, we talked about the ABS in the first section, being a 4-channel ABS. If you don't know, brakes can actually steer a car. I'll give you an example. If somebody's riding a zero-turn lawnmower, well, what they do is they pull in, they stop the inside track, and the lawnmower goes around itself. If you're in a canoe and you drop a paddle to the left side, the canoe will turn to the left. So using the brakes, the computer can brake any wheel that's appropriate, and what it does is it creates a hooking sensation, and it actually takes the car directly through the line of where you have the steering wheel pointed. So, I mean, the question is, I don't need this all the time, but how many times does this have to work before it's worth all the money? If you have a younger driver, somebody that's not used to something, nobody's driven in weather before, or you have a slick road, black ice, or something. I mean, this gives us the advantage to be able to get to our destination without meeting the guardrail. So this is vehicle stability control broken down into simple mathematics. PK52, the Saturday morning meeting.